am Art Mattson. I'm the village historian for the village of Lynbrook. And I'm also the author of the book Water and Ice, The Tragic Wrecks of the Bristol and New Mexico. And it tells the story of how this monument got here back in the early 1800s. And on behalf of the Historical Society of East Rockaway and Lynbrook, and also on behalf of the Nassau County Ancient Order of Hibernians Charities and Missions Committee, I want to welcome everyone to this memorial ceremony. Now, I said on behalf of the Nassau County AOH Charities and Missions Committee because normally the person standing next to me would be Andy Healy, who many of you know. We have together done this ceremony for over a decade, but he's been in the hospital for 2 weeks and cannot be with us. But I'm lucky enough to have Jack O'Brien, the president of the Nassau County AOH. So I'm really pleased that he's here.
Thank you, Art.
Now, Jack, at this point you would be bringing the color guard in, but we're not going to be doing that. I would at least, I don't know whether we should do the pledge or should we wait for I really need the color guard here for that. But maybe we'll just have that happen when they arrive.
All right.
Okay.
Do you have a ETA? 1 minute, 10 minutes.
Yeah, they should be. They're here right now.
Okay, well I can introduce a couple of people. Madeline Pearson is in the back with the green, and she is the executive chairman of the Historical Society of East Rockaway and Lynbrook. Next to her is Bob Simpson. He's a member of the Board of Trustees of the Historical Society, as I am. We also have Mike Horkhurst of the Village of Lynbrook, a trustee.
Anthony D'Esposito.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see you, Anthony. I looked right past and saw Mike.
Non-election years too.
You are. That's right. Thanks a lot. Thanks for pointing that out, Ed.
I'm Pete.
Okay.
I'm just going to introduce a few of the AOH members I have here. This is called out by past president of Nassau County, Peter Begley. I have past president Timmy Miles of Nassau County here. They've been here many times. Some of my board is here from the Nassau County Board. Sean the Sentinel, Tom Scanlon, Marshall, and my vice president couldn't make it this year. And we have many members of Division 14 out here who are big supporters of the area. They're right here in Lynbrook, Rockville Center area.
17 also.
And Division 17 will be the honor guard.
Well, besides members.
And the Piper is presented by Lorna Gale, Division 14 as well. Am I missing anybody? All the ladies of the AOH. Thank you for coming.
Division 3.
Division 3 is here as well, right? So we are big supporters of the monument. I want to thank everybody for coming out in advance. As soon as the fellows are set up, start the piping. Irish set to bring them in. Meanwhile, yeah, here's Art.
Okay. So, 184 years have passed since this event took place. That's when the two worst disasters in the then history of the United States took place. Each of those ships that were lost consisted of the worst then disasters. Only about 6 weeks apart. In 1830, the winter storms, 1836 and 7. Took the lives of 215 people off the coast of Long Island. And most of those immigrants were from Ireland. They were from England also, which they mentioned there. I hope it's just in alphabetical order why they put England first. But there were several English immigrants as well, Scottish and Welsh as well, but most from Ireland. Now, they were not escaping the famine. That was to come a few years in the future, in the 1840s. This is the mid-1830s. They were looking for a fresh start in this wonderful country of ours. They'd already heard about the wonderful place that we had here, and they wanted to leave the abusive economic system of the British Empire to come to America. But what they encountered aboard the U.S. flagged ships, the two of them, was something far worse than what they had left behind in Ireland. From the outset, there was no welcome on those ships. The captain, the ship owner, the crew, even the New York City harbor pilots treated them as if they were cargo. In fact, not even the value of the cargo on the ships. And because of the callous neglect, 100 people drowned after the ship struck a sandbar, off Rockaway Beach. And then 115 more people froze to death on the deck of the ship. A story written about it in the poem Leaves of Grass by Walt Whitman. This is only 200 yards offshore. They could hear the cries from the beach. The captains, both captains, and the crews mostly survived. Can you imagine? Mostly survived while the immigrants died. But mistreatment of immigrants in this country was common at the time. And Jack O'Brien has a little bit to tell us about the founding of the AOH just, a few months before these May of that year. And then following Jack's talk, you'll bring in the color guard,
Bring in the color guard?
Yeah, let's do it.
Pledge of Allegiance, everybody face the flag. Hand over heart. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all, the born and the unborn. Thank you. Two. All right, I want to thank everybody for coming again. Some of this has already been said, but it's very appreciative that this many people come out for this event. You'll have to put up with my reading a little bit of this. It's taken from old newspaper files and books on the subject, some of them from the time of the event. So basically, I want everybody to always remember that the immigrants who brought our own families here often risked their lives to make a better future for you and I, their descendants. Today we memorialize the two disasters of the Bristol and the Mexico, which teaches how important it is to respect all people. Touching on another... Okay, is that better? Can you hear me back there? Today we memorialize the two disasters, the Bristol and the Mexico, which teaches how important it is to respect all people. Touching on another 1836 event, I felt the need to give a quick history on the ancient order of Hibernians in America. It was about 1825 in Ireland that a group of men, seeing a need to preserve their way of life, joined together to combine the smaller societies into a larger organization, with the purpose of defending their families and their culture. They were not alone in their thoughts. At the same time in America, the Irish here saw the same need. They were often treated poorly, particularly in places like New York. Many husbands were killed shortly after arriving in America, leaving the wife and children to the devices of unscrupulous individuals and those not accepting of Irish immigrants. In those years, most immigrants were indeed Irish. The original letter was never found, but part of the wording, Finally, in May of 1836, a ship landed in New York with a courier who delivered a letter authorizing branches of the Irish Protective Society. The original letter was never been found, but part of the wording was recalled. Brothers, greeting. Be it known that to you and all whom it may concern, that we send our few brothers in New York full instructions with our authority to establish branches of our organization in America. The qualifications for membership must be as follows. All members must be good Catholics and Irish or Irish descent and of good and moral character, and none of your members shall join any secret societies contrary to the laws of the Catholic Church, and at all times and at all places your motto shall be friendship, unity, and true Christian charity. So in November of 1836, the same year as the Ancient Order of Hibernians was chartered in America, the New York harbor master, not thinking the lives of those on the ship were just as important as his own, did not respond to the signal from the Bristol to guide the ship into harbor before it was run aground. These are newspaper stories as well. Driven by the storm in below freezing temperatures about 400 yards from the shore, the Bristol grounded and was swamped by the powerful waves. Again, only weeks after the Bristol's end, the Mexico was not guided into a safe harbor in New York. The harbor master did not come out. Once again in a storm, the Mexico was grounded within sight of Long Beach. The passengers were all heard calling for help on the shore. There were many stories of the dozens of frozen bodies as they washed ashore after being swept from the ship by the frigid waters. As you have heard here, these tragic incidences were repeated within weeks of each other. We can be sure the harbor master thought he did everything possible, but there was no plan in place. We ask, did they do all they could? It's been calculated that in the two wrecks, as Artis said, 215 people drowned and froze to death. It was reported that about 100 drowned were from the Bristol, and later another 115 from the Mexico. We are here to memorialize these 139 men, women, and children who are interred here where we stand. Remember, these were two American ships, both returning to New York from Liverpool, England. They were filled with cargo and immigrants, of which more than 75% were Irish immigrants, the balance being England, Scotland, and Wales. This story is just one example of the needs seen by the Hibernians here in America. We were started, as many other charities were, to protect women and children and aid all those less fortunate than ourselves, regardless of race, creed, or color. To this day, we continue to fulfill our charter. Here in this place now, we restore and protect this monument. We memorialize those lost in their journey to a better life and the history they leave here on Long Island. Thank you all for coming.
Okay, I'm glad Mr. Councilman Esposito is here. I'm thrilled that you're here for a special reason, because I want to talk maybe 5 minutes about the town of Hempstead's connection to this spot that we're at. It goes way back. It goes back to January 1837. Just days after the Mexico wrecked at Long Beach, and they'd carried the bodies over to Baldwin, as it happens, to a barn. The town of Hempstead called a committee together, and they decided to create a burial plot here. There was a Methodist church just behind us over there, and they had a small cemetery. But adjacent to it, they acquired this land by raising funds from the chief citizens of the town, and also from money removed from the bodies of the dead. Now, the town of Hempstead admitted oversight responsibility for the land that we see here. However, they allowed the cemetery and this gravesite to become overgrown, even though they had actually helped to pay for the monument and the land. Overgrown with weeds. In 1917, the town did hire a cemetery caretaker. By 1932, the caretaker was gone. The weeds were back, and this monument you see here was tilting. And so the town stepped up again, cleaned things up, trued the monument back up to vertical, which I believe it's still vertical today, so they did a pretty good job. They even recarved the inscriptions on the monument and filled them in with black paint so that you could stand here and read the inscriptions. They're rather hard to see, as you can tell. Of course, we have them. Oh, this is the one here. This historical marker has those very inscriptions on it, so you don't have to strain your eyes to try to see them there. But then the town of Hempstead permanently passed the buck. They allowed a nonprofit cemetery organization to run the cemetery. The most that's done by that nonprofit corporation is they will mow the lawn. And they do a good job, and you can see it's a huge job to mow this cemetery lawn. It's a huge job. If the monument were to lean again, you see lots of stones around us that are leaning. They would allow it to lean. If it fell, it would happen, as happens to the stones, it would fall. They could even fill this space right in front of us, which was deeded by the town and purchased by the town. We could have burials right here, where I'm standing. In fact, if you go to the back of the monument, there are burials right up against the monument, even though that was part of the land that was to be reserved for mariners to be buried, victims of shipwrecks to be buried. So folks, it's time for the town of Hempstead to once again take responsibility for this incredibly important landmark. Important to the town of Hempstead, the county of Nassau, the state of New York, the United States, and every Irish American alive. As a necessary first step, Andy Healy and I submitted an application to the town of Hempstead just a couple of weeks ago, asking that this monument and this space here around it that be listed and preserved forever as a town of Hempstead landmark. And I want to ask your support for this. Please write to Don Clavin. You could also write to your representative on the board, expressing your support for a designation as a town of Hempstead landmark. And if those letters come not as a form letter, but as your individual letter that you think it should be done, then do that. Send your own letter, handwritten, I don't care. But I welcome your support. I thank you very much. Jim and Madeline Pearson, important members of the Historical Committee, have created, I'm going to let you tell them what has been created here.
Hello, everyone. As the Executive Director of the Historical Society East Rockaway and Lynbrook, for the last 15 years or so, we have had a program for all the local fourth grade children, which would be all the public and parochial children, come to the public library in Lynbrook, and gratefully they have a very tall ceiling in the one room. And we actually had created the same monument, the same size, life size, and it was in 3 pieces, and every year when we do our program for about 2-week period, we have to get a crew to come in and put the thing together so that it stands there, and then we share the story of our local history with that monument. So we decided to make something a little bit easier to transport. So we have a new wooden model of the monument here, and we're going to unveil it now. So it was my brother here who put this thing together. So if he wants to say a few words on what he did, or no.
There isn't much to say. I have some woodworking knowledge, and I made it. That's it. If you have any questions, ask me. Other than that, enjoy it.
Is it to scale?
It's to scale, 1/20th. Every dimension, it's 15. It's almost like 15, 16 feet high, the original model. If you divide everything by 5, it becomes 20%. It's all scale model.
Okay, thank you.
Now, this monument will have a lot of uses. I, for example, am going to, I think it's the Oceanside Library, don't even know the date, it's in November. I'll be doing a talk. And typically, 50, 60, 70 people show up. I'm bringing this monument with me. The other monument, which is this size, there was no way I could do that. So any talk I do in libraries, we'll be using this monument.
It's very important to remember our past so that it never gets repeated. We already have national landmark status and state landmark status for this site. We're asking that the town of Hempstead recognize it as the town of Hempstead historical landmark. And it will be better taken care of in the future for that. As Art said, below us are many people. 139 of them were from those wrecks that we know of. Not all of them are the correct names on a list somewhere, but they deserve the same respect we give everybody who passed, Irish or not. Color guard, prepare. Retire the colors. Piper, Amazing Grace.